Welcome to the Midwest Blitz. It's college football comfort food for the Midwest soul. Now, here are your hosts, Coach Drew and Big Nick.
Welcome back to the Midwest Blitz, where we're recapping Week 5. Yeah.
Yup.
Well, you know who it is. It's me, Coach Drew, and I'm with my partner in crime, Big Nick.
What up, fellas?
Yep. Like we always say around here, it's always nice to say hello and stay for a while, so don't forget to click that subscribe and follow button.
No
now
doubt.
we're going right into the AP. Ohio State, number 1, no movement on the chart. The Ohio State, let me correct myself. Don't want to make them mad.
The Ohio State University.
The Ohio State University. Then we have Oregon, number 2. They moved up 4 slots after beating Penn State on the road in a whiteout. Penn State dropped. They're number 7. They dropped 4 slots. Indiana, now a top 10 team. They are 8. They moved up 3 slots. Michigan is 20. They dropped 1 because they're on a bye. Notre Dame's 21. They moved up because they played a game and won. Illinois is 22. They moved up a slot. USC was ranked, but I wanted to note that they're not ranked no more and they dropped out. So we're going to start. Actually, that's where we're heading right now. USC against Illinois. Just like our podcast, it's late at night, but sometimes people complain about the time, like a 9 a.m. kickoff, which Big Nick also talked about last week. Go ahead, Nick. How do you want to cover this?
It's almost like USC used to have a conference where they could play West Coast teams that were on West Coast time schedules, and then they cry when they have to travel east to play Big Ten teams that do not play in West Coast time schedules. It's pretty embarrassing on Lincoln Riley's part that he brought that up at all, but he did. So I want to thank Illinois, the Fighting Illini, who got back to fighting this week. I'm so proud of Brett Bielema and his team for showing America what a bunch of soft-ass dudes that play at USC. USC can't tackle. Where did we hear about that before, Coach Drew? Was that here on the Midwest Blitz? I told you them dudes couldn't tackle. Told you, America?
Yeah, they just couldn't do the job. I mean, even if they have Ryans, they still don't know how to tackle. It's pitiful.
Look, the USC offense did not get to play Georgia Southern again this week, so it's not quite as easy to run over an actual Division I football team. Gritty comeback by Illinois. Solid performance by the defensive backfield from USC. They were down a man to injury. Xavier Scott, who was reported out for the season, but might be able to come back by the end of the year from what I hear now. There was a huge goal line stand by USC at the end of this, there was a huge goal line stand by Illinois at the end of the second quarter that really showed the character of this football team. It showed that Bielema rallied the troops this week. Illinois was physical up front on offense. Fagan was a hammer at running back, all 6'3", 250 pounds of him. It's just unfortunate that he fumbled on the goal line, and Valentine also fumbled on the goal line and screwed up my live bet that I made on Illinois, because they should have been up by 2 touchdowns at the end of the game, but they did rally and won on the last second field goal. The real stud on offense was the quarterback, who had 2 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, and caught a touchdown pass on a Philly special. He's really a special player. If you're an Illini fan, you got to treasure him while he's still there. Luke Altmaier. Altmaier is, if you don't like that guy, you don't like college football. But yeah, the 2 goal line fumbles by Illinois were crucial mistakes. But luckily, USC doesn't tackle, and they're semi-interested in showing up to play a road game. I don't think that USC is any more of a shell of a team with a lot of talent and not very good coaching. That's my take on this game. Coach Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, USA looked like they were being, bullied at some points of this game. They just didn't show what USC's old football used to be. Illinois also just got spanked on the road when they played against Indiana. You're looking at a team that has 1 loss coming into this game, and you're thinking, all right, well, they're not going to play football anymore, and that's exactly the opposite. They showed a lot of fight, like they're called, the Fighting Illini, and they did a lot of good. And Altamar just looked like a kid playing backyard football back there. I mean, every time he did something, he looked so excited. Every score he did, I mean, that was a statement game. That's why he was one of my early bids for Heisman finalists at the beginning of the year. One of my favorite picks. It's going to be interesting to see what this tale does, because as we continue to talk about these games, there's a game that we're not going to cover, but FSU lost to Virginia. I mean, there's a lot of quality teams that are taking losses, and so
Sure.
1 or 2 losses is going to mean a lot when it comes down to it. Like, you can lose 1 or 2 games and still make the college football playoff. I do believe that.
I do want to say, though, I think Mayava, the quarterback for USC, he's pretty legit. I don't have anything bad to say about him. He can sling it, and he also can read situations where he can scramble for a first down. He's not an elite scrambler in terms of his overall athletic ability, but he is a hell of a quarterback. So I wanted to give Mayava some credit. The rest of USC's team was not ready for the fight that Illinois brought to them. And if, like I said, if the running backs for Illinois didn't have those fumbles, that game would not have been close at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're going to head over to Indiana and Iowa, where the score was 20-15 in a closer game than we thought coming into it. Isn't that right, Coach Nick?
Look, gritty performance by Iowa. I think the Iowa coaching staff for 90% of this game outcoached Kurt Cignetti and his staff. Not by a mile, but Iowa was able to do some things in the short passing game and have consistent success on plays that don't work against other teams, but they were successful against Indiana doing things like, I don't know, the creative passing concept of your tight end running a hitch right behind where the Mike linebacker started. I mean, I don't think Indiana's defensive game plan in the passing game was good. I don't have the exact number, but Mark Gronowski passed like 17 times in the first half. He was like 13 of 17 passing at halftime. And as we've talked about here on the Midwest Blitz, Iowa's passing game has struggled. Indiana really was not prepared to stop the short passing game, and that really allowed Iowa to do some things and extend some drives offensively. They controlled time of possession pretty heavily in this game. I want to give credit to Moulton, the running back from Iowa, and Caden Wheatgen, the All-American kick returner who was involved in some jet sweeps and some short passing game concepts. Moulton ran like a guy twice his size. He was an animal. If you're an Iowa fan, you should be proud to have that kid on your team. He's really fun to watch. Wheatgen, very fun to watch also. Gronowski got hurt towards the end of the game, as all Iowa fans will never forget. And the backup quarterback came in and played pretty well, completed some passes, but was under a lot of pressure. I don't blame it on that kid, but he did throw an interception under pressure that helped Indiana end up securing the victory. Fernando Mendoza showed a lot of composure under pressure and a lot of toughness. I think that his talent as far as throwing the ball was not in question coming into this game. And for me as an Indiana fan, to see him complete some of these passes where he got absolutely drilled and threw a strike on a couple of medium to deep balls, this kid's got NFL in his future. And I know he was the most sacked quarterback in the country last year at Cal, but let's be honest, most of us were not watching him at Cal last year. Fernando Mendoza is a great teammate, is a future NFL quarterback. Arm talent plus his composure and toughness. I also want to talk about Omar Cooper is shaping up to be a potential All-American. Fernando Mendoza did underthrow him on what should have been a touchdown pass in the first half, which kept this game closer than I think it would have been. But the real hero of this game, Elijah Surratt, Waffle House, open 20. When Indiana needed something at the end of the game and Iowa was stacking the box to stop the run, they threw a slant route to Elijah Surratt, the Waffle House, open 24/7, and he took it to the house for like a 50, 60-yard touchdown. And here's my critique for Indiana in this game offensively is, why is it that earlier in the game they had 4th and short and decided to go for it? I'm cool with it. We're aggressive. Cignetti's aggressive. But we had one-on-one coverage, similar scenario with Cooper and Surratt earlier in the game, and Cignetti wants to pound it up the middle against an 8, 9, 10-man box. Same thing he did against Old Dominion a couple times, which I'm the only one in this conversation that watched that game. Look, if they load the box heavy enough, and you have an all-American wide receiver out there with one-on-one coverage, what is it that you don't trust? You don't trust Mendoza, or you don't trust Elijah Surratt, the best possession receiver in America, in my opinion, who proved that with his game-winning touchdown. I think Cignetti sometimes is too aggressive trying to run the ball in short yardage to prove how tough the Hoosiers are. And the Hoosiers are tough. The Hoosiers offensive line did a good job against a great Iowa defensive line. Aaron Graves had a critical sack in the first half. I pointed him out as being a big part of Iowa's game plan defensively. Full credit to Iowa up front on the offensive and defensive lines, and to Gronowski's toughness at quarterback. Indiana squeaked this one out. It's a good road win for the Hoosiers. Good road win. My question as an IU fan is, well, we can beat people by 50 points, which if you actually look at the scores last year, 3, 4, 5 touchdown wins all over the board, except for the 2 losses to Ohio State and Notre Dame. But this showed, and I think will build confidence for the Hoosiers moving into the road game at Oregon in 2 weeks after their bye, that they're capable of winning a close game. And in my mind, that was kind of a question mark. I was worried in the fourth quarter when Indiana was tied because I felt like Cignetti looked worried or overexcited, or however you want to quantify that. But Surratt saved the day, and he was the perfect man for the job. Drew, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, you said it in the last podcast. We were talking about they're going to drag you out, and they're going to drag you in the trenches. And I think Iowa did a very good job at home. This is a very close matchup. Shout out to Haas, the boss man, on the TikToks. He told us a lot of good stuff about what's going on with the Iowa fan base, a fan of the show. And I just, I was reading the comment, I messaged him back, and, a lot of people, what is this the end of Iowa's KF's run? Like, as with the head coach? Like, is this the end of it? Like, you bring in an IU team was beatable at one point of this game, and you still don't capitalize, similar to the Cyhawk. Like, it's getting very, it's getting sad quickly for Iowa. They were my sleeper pick at the beginning of the year, and I don't know what's going to happen with them moving forward, but I hope them the best. Hope the best.
Iowa's defense was fantastic in this game, but as I said going into the Cyhawk game, when you can't consistently pass the ball, your margin of error is play perfect and win by 1 score. Because when you get behind, which they were not behind in this game, but if you're behind and you can't pass consistently, you're in trouble. If you can't build a 2-score lead against a team like Indiana, who's able to run and pass and hit you with those RPOs, you're kind of always behind in the hand. It's like when you're playing poker and the guy across the table from you has more money in his pocket, and he can kind of just, I can throw a couple more nickels out here and see how you respond. Iowa's offense just does not allow them that ability to dictate to the other team. They're kind of always being dictated to, but shout out to Parker, Iowa's defensive coordinator. I think had a very, very good game plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now it's time to travel to Arkansas. I don't want to say Kansas because I don't like Kansas, but I think we're going to Arkansas. I think they had a civil war about it, but let's go there where Notre Dame played Arkansas. Go ahead, Nick.
So Notre Dame traveled to Arkansas, also known as Arkansas. In case you Notre Dame fans didn't realize it, Drew hates people from Kansas, and he hates the whole state of Kansas. I don't know why. We don't have to get into it right now. I am going to say that Notre Dame's defense, that has been much maligned by us in particular, was a lot better. And the reason that they were better is that they actually made an adjustment, which I demanded that they make, or I would continue to call for certain people to find a new job somewhere else. Notre Dame blitzed on 3rd down at a higher rate in this game, created more pressure against an Arkansas passing offense that was one of the best in the country. And so Notre Dame's defense did what I wasn't sure they could do, which was slow this passing offense of Arkansas down to a very great degree. A little bit of creativity on the defensive side of the ball from the Irish, which is what they needed. Well, it's what they needed a month ago. It's what they needed 3-4 weeks ago against Miami. I don't want to live in the past here, but thank you to the Notre Dame coaching staff for not making me and Drew show up here and complain about a poor defensive performance. And credit to the players. We have not been critical of the players, by the way, but better game plan on defense. Notre Dame's offense looked like they were scrimmaging the freshman team all day. I'm going to say this. I think C.J. Carr is the next great Notre Dame quarterback. This kid's composure, and look, he had all day to throw the ball most of the time. His offensive line did a good job. Arkansas's defense was weak, as we pointed out. I said that Notre Dame's offense would feast against the Arkansas defense, and they did. But C.J. Carr is an absolute baller. And I'm going to say this. We haven't talked about Penn State, Oregon yet. The best backfield in America resides in South Bend, Indiana at Notre Dame. Love and Price. And what they did with Love in the passing game and then incorporating Price in the running game is a two-headed monster at running back that no one in America wants to face up against right now. Also, we got Malachi Fields involved. And I forgot Will Pauling, the transfer portal guy from Wisconsin, one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten last year. I forgot he was on the team, but look, they hit him with a pass. Hell, they got a lot of guys involved in this game, and I think that's good moving forward to create rhythm in the passing game and get guys involved as they move into maybe not the tougher part of the schedule, but to have cohesiveness. They have a chance to run the table here, Notre Dame fans. The season's not over because of the 0-2 start, but they got to keep on the roll that they're on right now. But what the defense did is the most encouraging part of this. What do you think, Coach Drew?
Yeah, a blowout on the road in the SEC is always huge, and always, Arkansas famously was a good football program. It's had its ups and downs of recent. You go to Arkansas. This offense is just off to a phenomenal start. They broke the Notre Dame record, which I believe it was, scoring 5 drives, 5 touchdowns in the first half. And then before I even got to text that out, they got a turnover, and it was 6 right before halftime. 13 points is really positive. They created pressure. They just looked a lot better defensively. Let's just say that.
This is a talented Arkansas quarterback that resembled Marcel Reed from Texas A&M. And they did a way better job of keeping him off rhythm and not allowing time for this kid to get downfield. Taylon Green is a very good quarterback for Arkansas. Their defensive front is like Swiss cheese. So, the Irish capitalize on that. But yeah, the defense clicking is what I really wanted to see this week. And they made the adjustments that we kind of asked for.
Yeah, Greathouse even got a catch. He's been pretty silent back there.
Right.
This team right now, like you said, has to run the table. Starting going to is obviously the worst case scenario we talked about in the preseason. Now it's time to buckle up, and if they continue to win like this on Selection Sunday with college football, who knows? Who knows? Maybe we get to play on a road somewhere. I don't think we're going to host because we have 2 losses, but who knows? The season still has a lot to play for in front of us. All right, well, let's go ahead to Alaska Airlines Stadium, where Washington had the Ohio State come in. And, well, we covered this game, and it got really popular on TikTok, and I just want to say this before we get into it. We had Ohio State the whole time. We were just trying to see what you guys would think about covering the spread. But, Nick, give us the analytical part that they want to hear. Go ahead.
So our Notre Dame insider texted me late Saturday night, and he talked about 4 top 10 teams having losses, and he said, who is the real number 1 team in the country? And I said, after a few seconds of thought, I said, it's Ohio State. The Ohio State University won a tough road game. I know some of you Ohio State fans think that they're going to win every game by 50 points. That's a good Washington team. Your defense performed really well against a team that has some talented playmakers. And the Husky defense, they slowed you guys down a little bit in the first half. The Husky offense got into the plus side of the field and threatened to score. And Ohio State, with Ryan Day, who honestly, I think Ryan Day is the best college football coach in America. I really do. I know you guys want to fire him when he loses a couple of games. He's a hell of a coach. Washington had a good team. They won coaching, and they figured out ways to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith, who is obviously one of the best players in America. And they even got to Carnell Tate a few times, who I think is possibly the most underrated player in America, at least the most underrated wide receiver. I got to give shout out as an Indiana guy to Caden Curry, who was your guys' defensive player in the game. He had 3 sacks, and then he had like 11 or 12 tackles. I think he had 5 tackles for loss. He's my defensive player of the game and one of my defensive players of the week in all of college football. Caden Curry had a hell of a game this week. He went there and sat the bench for a while and was a rotational player and had a chance to shine at Washington. So, Caden Curry, you're one of my in-the-trenches defensive lineman of the week. Hell of a game for you. Yeah, I mean, this is just like Indiana. You go on the road at Iowa, at Washington, and you think, oh, my team's really good. They should win by 1,000,000. It's not how college football works. You have a team with a good coaching staff. They slow you down for a little while, but you have players that have the mental toughness and fortitude to close the game down the stretch and win 24-6. If I'm an Ohio State fan, this is a sign of the character that Ryan Day has built in this program. This is a team of fighters that doesn't give up and maintains mental focus. And that's what you need to make a deep run in the college football playoff, which some of you Ohio State fans are a little too spoiled with that. It can come and go, but your team has that right now. They have everything that you want to maintain a championship level of play, and you should be really proud of your team for executing down the stretch and winning this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jeremiah Smith he could be a starter on a lot of NFL teams right now as a wide receiver. I do believe that, which is kind of crazy because he's playing in Ohio State. You also have Carnell Tate. I mean, you have a lot of wide receivers who are playing really well in the NFL. The reason why I want to bring that up is you guys have outstanding talent at the Ohio State. You're not having a national championship regress. This is reminding me of Alabama with Saban. Now, Ryan Day has a lot more to earn to even be considered in that same Mount Rushmore with coaches. But, I mean, they're definitely projected this year to do well. I'm looking for a big, huge fist fight at the end of the season. Maybe somebody plants someone else's flag in their stadium. Who knows? I don't know. It's going to be wild, that's for sure.
I want to say one more thing about Ohio State before we move on. This offense is very similar to last year's offense, that their running game is not dominant. The other, Bo Jackson, had a pretty solid game running the football. This is a team, Julian's saying, shout out to you. He's got to be the best, if not one of the best freshman quarterbacks in America. A lot of composure out of this kid. Really like him. But this is not a team that can run the ball down your throat and win the game. I think that the other Bo Jackson he averaged like 4-point-something yards a carry, which is good, but it's not up to a standard of old school Ohio State teams that would absolutely jam the ball down your throat running it. So the execution, the passing game, and all that takes a higher level of coaching. I'm not sure that Ohio State's offensive line is as good at run blocking as they are at pass blocking, and I don't think they were last year either, but they don't have to be. With this defense, they could win it. They could win the national championship again. But running the ball is not the strength of this offense, and that's all I wanted to point out before we moved on.
All right, well, you heard it here from Coach Nick. Again, the Ohio State is back, or they never left, I should say, because they are the national championships from last year. Now we're going to go head down to where Mo Bamba is saying in a Happy Valley, which is probably sad right now. I'm the only one who went against them, so if you want to get mad at me. But I'm going to let the victor talk his walk his waddle. Quack is quack. That is Coach Nick over there. He's going to let y'all know.
Quack, 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 quack,
quack.
I didn't bet Oregon plus points. I bet Oregon money line. That's a plus 150 payout if you listen to the Midwest Blitz and if you want free money. That was the pick of the week right there. And although this game went to overtime, great football game to watch. So I don't want to discount Penn State. Dude, Penn State's defense is so talented. Dude, Zane Durant on the defensive line. A.J. Harris. A.J. Harris gets in the box as a cornerback and tackles and makes TFLs like he's a freaking linebacker. Who else? Oh, Wheatley. Zachy Wheatley's a dog. Zion Tracy had a TFL that I was really impressed with also. So I just want to touch on what we talked about in the preview that came to fruition, which is that this Penn State passing offense it's not better than last year. It's worse than last year. I know at the end of the game that Oregon went into soft coverage with the lead, and I kind of questioned some of those coaching decisions, but you see this in college football and in the NFL. We have the lead. Let's just let them dink and duck down the field and see what they can do. Drew Aller's first half passing stats were not good. Penn State, I believe, had 24 rushing yards at halftime. This is supposed to be one of the best offensive lines in America, with what allegedly was the best backfield duo in America, and we just stripped that title from them. That's Notre Dame has the best backfield in America. And I had to argue with my Notre Dame friends about this before the season started that I thought it was Penn State. Well, Penn State, you proved me wrong. Notre Dame has the best running back duo, not you. The team that won this game had better quarterback play, which I also called. Dante Moore showed a lot of composure on the road. Dan Lanning, the road dog, best road coach in America, had his team prepared for the road environment. And the team that was stronger up front on both sides of the ball won this game. And that was the Oregon Ducks, not the Penn State and Nittany Lions. And we picked Penn State to win the Big Ten at the start of the season, if you guys weren't on board yet. This Penn State team, the not being able to run the ball thing is very confusing to me, Coach Drew. The lack of passing success at certain times and passing efficiency, let's say it that way. I'm not shocked by that, but the not being able to run the ball is... whoa, if Penn State's offense can't run the ball, they're effed like a farm animal, because they're not going to drop back and beat you the whole game throwing the ball. They couldn't even do it against Villanova and FIU. What do you think, Coach Drew?
Yeah, I don't know what Franklin was thinking on the sidelines. If you're not running the ball with this team, I mean, they're a really good running team when they run the ball, right? Like, you have to do that to be that. And I also do believe that Penn State, they just look like we've seen this before. I've been here before. This reminds me of Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. Is the ceiling Penn State or is the ceiling Franklin, the head coach? Like, that was the thing. You know, if I'm a Penn State fan, I'm going to let you guys know some. Now, I know you guys probably love him and you probably think he's a great guy, and I believe his character is okay and all that. But at the end of the day, sometimes it is time to move on, and there might be some brighter pastures. I mean, when we got rid of, well, we didn't get rid of him. Actually, he left us. When Brian Kelly took the job at LSU, Marcus Freeman came in, and everybody was like, Marcus Freeman isn't who he says he's going to be, blah, blah, blah. Well, it did take a couple years, but we were right there in the national championship with the Ohio State. And we did hang with them until the final last couple plays, it seemed like. So what is it going to take to make Happy Valley happy again? That's the true question, Nick.
I think James Franklin is a very good football coach. So I'm not going to throw him under the bus as hard as Coach Drew did. But look, you got Jim Knowles at defensive coordinator. Drew, that was why you picked Penn State to win the game, right? That they had Knowles, which that's a pretty good addition. Man, what's Penn State's offensive coordinator's name? They call him, gosh, I'm messing this segment up. They call him Coach K. Comparing that guy to Mike Krzyzewski is like comparing me to John Madden. I mean, look, they have a great offensive line and have for a while, and they run the hell out of the ball, which we love on the Midwest Blitz. But when your passing game is throw to tight end, throw to running back, and run the shit out of the ball, you're not some creative genius. I mean, when you had Tyler Warren, you ran all those trick plays. That was pretty awesome, which we talked about the loss of Tyler Warren being a detriment to this Penn State offense. Did we not talk about that the other day, Coach Drew?
We did talk about that.
And so you can't get the ball into a wide receiver's hands. Teams figure out how to do it when they have good coordinators. You got Kyron Hudson from USC, who I think is a terrific player. Why can't you get the ball to wide receiver? It's not everybody else's fault. But to say it a different way, some people want to say, well, the receivers can't get open, or It's not the quarterback. It's not the play caller. Well, then who the hell is it? The play caller and the quarterback are the two main guys that have to figure out ways to get the ball into the receiver's hands. And if you have a receiver with the talent level of Kyron Hudson and you can't figure out ways to scheme him open and get him involved in the offense on a consistent basis, which they didn't even do well early in the season against Villanova and FIU, in my opinion, if you can't do that, it's not the receiver's fault. So Penn State doesn't just have a passing game problem, they have a running game problem, which I'm kind of shocked by. And Aller's numbers before the Ducks went into the prevent defense, which prevents you from stopping the passing game. That's the joke my dad used to make. Oh, well, they're in the prevent. It prevents you from stopping the passing game. Aller's numbers were terrible. And the phrase that I kept hearing from the announcers on TV that I quoted in my notes a couple times was, Aller throws another fadeaway. Now, look, when you got somebody in your face, I get it. You're not going to step into it and get your lights knocked out. But Aller's back there not sure where to throw, and he's fading back. I don't know. That passing game looks like garbage to me most of the game. If Oregon didn't go soft in coverage at the end, I think that his stat line looks terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Quack knew what they were doing. They came in there and they quacked, and they waddle, and they just took care of everything Penn State had.
You gonna ask me about my shoes?
Yeah. Are you wearing your Nike shoes again?
I'm wearing my Duck shoes. They got little flippers on them.
They do have little flippers on them.
I told you guys Oregon was going to win this game.
I mean, they do have, which I'm quoting you from, a road dog on the road, the best head coach to go on road matchups. I mean, Dan Lanning, I've seen a couple of his games. He's definitely a baller, you know? He might be a head coach baller of the week.
Let's talk about Mo Bamba. Bamba. Dan Lanning said that's one of his favorite songs now. And that is an absolute slap in the face to Penn State that plays that song. And it's stuck in my head the whole college football season. So Penn State's got me on that one. Mo Bamba and the whiteout didn't have much, if any, effect on Oregon. And dude, Dante Moore has been slept on. Dante Moore is a hell of a quarterback.
Yeah, he's definitely going to get some Heisman looks after this week for sure. Well, that actually brings us into our next category, Ballers of the Week.
Now it's time for Ballers of the Week. Our selections for top offensive skill players from this past weekend. Ready to put some points on the board? Here we go.
Yeah, yup.
Go ahead, Nick. What's your Ballers of the Week look like?
Well, since you brought it up, Coach Drew, Dan Lanning as the head coach of the Oregon Ducks that went into the whiteout and won in the simulated snowstorm, which is tough to do for a Duck. Dan Lanning gets a game ball from me for being a Baller of the Week. I mean, that guy is such a talented, intelligent head coach, and I know the guy's a genius because if you listen to him in an interview, he reminds me of friends that I've coached with in the past. But if he was like the friends I coached with in the past, he'd be sitting here talking to Coach Drew. He wouldn't be making X million dollars a year at Oregon, going into Penn State, kicking ass and taking names. Dan Lanning gets a Baller of the Week award for his win at Penn State. I got Luke Altmaier, Coach Drew. Now, let's make a little hockey reference here. Luke Altmaier had the hat trick this weekend. 2 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown on a Philly special play that I love that play call from Illinois in the first half. So Luke Altmaier in the, can we call it an upset that they beat USC at home? I got Luke Altmaier as a Baller of the Week. He's got a game ball for me, and I got Elijah Surratt. He had 6 catches, but the important one was Iowa went 0-man coverage. And where do you go when nothing else is open? You go to the Waffle House to Elijah Surratt. Elijah Surratt is going to play in the NFL. He's probably the best possession receiver in America. He's been underutilized by Coach Cignetti at Indiana. I don't blame Mendoza. I think that Cignetti thinks like, oh, we'll just wait to go to Waffle House till it's 3 a.m. Hey, why don't we go to Waffle House at 2 a.m.? Why don't we go during the afternoon? I like waffles. I like bacon and eggs and pancakes. Waffle House Elijah Surratt, you're my Baller of the Week as an Indiana fan. So proud of you. When they threw that slant route and that smaller cornerback was on you, I can tell you've been in the weight room, my friend, because there's no way he was tackling your big ass. I got Surratt. Who you got, Coach Drew?
Yeah, so my ballers of the week is Aldermatter as well, as he has the hat trick. I mean, he just looked like a kid that was having fun out there. I love seeing that. I also have Love from Notre Dame, had 4 total touchdowns,
Yeah.
was out there balling. CJ Carr also, I'm going to give him an honorable mention because I don't want to give 2 from Notre Dame, but Carr is also looking like a baller. He's a slept-on quarterback that a lot of freshmen. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about that. You look at the quarterbacks at Ohio State and Notre Dame are both freshmen in their retrospects, and they both had elite senior quarterbacks last year, and they're still doing well. I mean, that's just a tribute to both programs being very well coached. And that actually brings up my honorable mention, Julian Super Saiyan. He got 2 touchdowns. He was 22 for 28 against the Washington Huskers. He was just lighting it up. Huskies. I don't know if I said Huskers. I'm going to correct myself now.
Sometimes Drew gets those 2 confused, the Huskers and the Huskies, but we love both of you, the Huskies and the Huskers. But this was the Huskies, Coach Drew.
Yeah, and I'm going to give one of my roses to Moore. Get it? Rose Bowl reference there. I'm going to give one of my roses to Moore. He had 3 touchdowns, 29 for 39 against Penn State. I thought he wasn't going to do that great, but he did. That's why I got my baller of the week. Now we're going to head over to O-line.
Ring the dinner bell. It's time for Buffet Busters, our top offensive line performers of the week. Anyone in the mood for pancakes?
All right, Nick, who do you got for Buffet Busters?
Buffet Busters. I got the Illinois offensive line as a group. J.C. Davis and the boys and Olin Kreuz's son took care of business. This USC defensive line had a bunch of sacks against Sisters of the Poor and Sluts of the South and the School of the Blind and whatnot, so on and so forth and what have you. I think they got 1 or 2 against Altmaier, but I kept being told that Rob Ryan and his cool haircut were going to teach USC how to play real defense. And look, they got recruiting stars, Coach Drew. They got recruiting stars on their defense, but they don't have on-field football stars on that defense. I mean, they got one linebacker that's pretty badass. Illinois' offensive line really improved after they took a beating against Indiana last week. So I got Buffet Busters, whole offensive line, Illinois. You guys should be proud of the job you did. I know your head coach, Brett Bielema, is an offensive line guy, is proud of you also. And then I got Alex Harkey, offensive tackle, Oregon. He absolutely pimp slapped a couple dudes during that Penn State game. And Penn State's got some dudes up there. It's not like you're slapping around some Division II player. Alex Harkey is a big old boy, and he is a buffet buster. He gets a game ball as an offensive lineman on an individual basis for me. Alex Harkey, you are a badass. Welcome to Buffet Busters. You get a game ball. You're one of my players of the week. Who you got, Coach Drew?
Yeah, the 2, actually, I'm going to need a pretty big bust because I got 2 offensive line groups I'm shouting out here. They both played the national championship last year. I got the Ohio State for doing his job against the Huskies. Made sure I got it right there. And also Notre Dame's offensive line. I don't think they get enough credit. I mean, how does Price, Love, Carr, Fields, Greathouse, Pauling, how do all these guys do what they do without the offensive line? Like you say the same thing about the Ohio State. How do they get everything going? It starts with the offensive line. If you want to build a house, you start with the bottom, and that's the boys with the big bottoms, and that's the O-line.
Absolutely.
Well, now we're going to move on to In the Trenches.
If you enjoy quarterbacks with grass stains on their jersey and pretty boy ball carriers running for their lives, this might be your favorite part of the show. It's time to go in the trenches, where we celebrate the top defensive line and linebacker players of the week.
All right, Nick, who do you got for In the Trenches?
Okay, my number 1 In the Trenches player is Caden Curry for Ohio State. He had 3 sacks, and then he had 11 or 12 total tackles, depending on which scouting or statistical service you look at the stats on. Caden Curry is a Center Grove High School, south of Indianapolis player that I followed while he was growing up. Caden Curry Originally committed to Indiana, went to Ohio State, sat behind some really talented players that are in the NFL now and waited his turn. And now I think as a fifth-year senior, has a huge game and a road win. Aiden Curry, you are in the trenches. You get a game ball from me, my friend. A heck of a game at Washington. And then speaking of Washington, my other in the trenches player is number 52, Amari Washington for the Oregon Ducks. I think he had 2 tackles for loss in the running game that were huge. He also busted up a screen pass, which, as a former defensive line coach, he had the football IQ with his hand in the dirt to see the blocking scheme and then turn around, get a hand up, and break up a screen pass. And that's everything I love to see when I'm watching a football game, is those unexpected moments where the defensive linemen don't just tackle a running back at the line of scrimmage, but actually show that they are football players and thinking football players, and they go and break up a screen pass. So Amari Washington, who, Drew, I don't know if you knew this, Amari Washington is a large man. That's not a man you want to tussle with. I got Amari Washington as in the trenches. You get a game ball, Amari Washington. We're happy to have you in the trenches with us. Coach Drew, who you got?
I also do have Curry from Ohio State with those 3 sacks. Had to shout out our Hoosier native. I also had Weaver at Rutgers. He had 2.5 sacks against Minnesota, as they were trying to keep it close, and they ended up losing. But 2.5 sacks is always good to see in the box score. I also got Campbell from Penn State. They got him down for 24 tackles. I mean, that's a lot of tackles. That's a lot of hitting. And then this is your guy, the baseball player. We talked about him earlier.
How could I forget? Yeah, Bryce Batcher. Go ahead.
Yep. He had 12 tackles. See, I shouted out guys from both teams for Penn State and Oregon. Because, again, here we love you guys. We love all the Big Ten teams. We just like to talk to you guys and give you guys insiders. But sometimes when you guys hear us and you don't listen to the whole thing, we become the enemy of the state. Now, I will say, Oregon, yes, you can point your rifles at me and, hunt me like a lion because I did pick the Nittany Lions. Fair enough. But sometimes when we're talking about the spreads, holy hell, listen to the clip more than 5 seconds and you'd see, and just don't run to the comments. All right? But while I'm running to the comments, I'm also going to head over to the no-fly zone.
2/3 of the earth is covered by water. The other third is covered by our next segment. Time to enter the no-fly zone with our top defensive back performers of the week.
All right, who do you got covered in the no-fly zone?
Well, another player that we covered and talked about is, as I quote myself, it's really fun to quote yourself, Coach Drew, especially when you're right. A huge addition, along with Bear Alexander, the Oregon Duck defense, who maybe I should have given Bear Alexander an In the Trenches award. He had a pretty good game also. But a huge addition for the Oregon Ducks was Dylan Thieneman, the Purdue transfer portal addition to the Ducks. Had a huge game-ending interception, a walk-off, if you will, which Bryce Betcher's probably hit a few walk-off home runs in his baseball career, drafted by the Astros. The aforementioned linebacker / baseball player, linebacker for Oregon. But Thieneman's interception in overtime, you don't get more clutch than that. I'm also going to give one to Amari Farrell from Indiana, who had an interception against Iowa at the beginning of the game. I said, and I was proven a little wrong on this. I said if Iowa throws the ball too many times, Indiana's going to pick them off. In the first passing play of the game, Indiana had an interception. I will point out that D'Angelo Pons for the Hoosiers had an undisclosed, air quotes, injury that he was held out of the game at the last minute for. So we hope that he's healthy moving forward. That might have helped the Hoosiers secondary a little bit in that Iowa game. But Amari Farrell, again, preseason All Big Ten safety. You are in the no-fly zone with us, my friend. You get a game ball. Happy to have you here. And then we got Dylan Rosiak from Illinois, who had a critical interception in their win against the USC Trojans. Rosiak, also pretty good tackler, pretty good baller, pretty good overall football player. I bet he was a hell of a high school football player, like most of these guys. But Rosiak, you are in the no-fly zone. You get a game ball from me. I appreciate your contribution to whipping USC's ass because I really, really thought, Drew, that Illinois had a chance to beat USC when nobody else did. And so I'm glad you guys made me right. I did not bet on you, but I thought, like, if you guys showed up and played the way you did, you would have a very good chance to win the game while the rest of the country gave up on you. So, Dylan Rosiak, thank you for your contribution. Drew, who you got?
Yeah, I'm just gonna give the game ball to the whole secondary for the Ohio State. As far as they go, as far as that goes, they had 0 tutties, right? No Husky was running across that end zone, right? So that's why I give the Ohio State game ball, the whole secondary there. The other one that I got for the no-fly zone is Thieneman, who got that game-winning interception against Penn State. It looked like it was a direct pass right to him, but I digress. And yeah, those are my no-fly zones. Well, that's about it for us here on the Midwest Blitz. Now we're going to our favorite part of the show, the Midwest Goodbye.
Coach Drew, is there any way last season we envisioned we would be giving a Purdue player props on a game of the week, nationally televised? Now, he doesn't play at Purdue anymore. Dylan Thieneman, what a dog. What an absolute dog.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was players that possibly did play well at Purdue, but that's why coaching is important. Why sometimes you got to shake it up, as I mentioned Advid before. Maybe in Pennsylvania, maybe in a valley that's happy.
Yeah. A tight end played well at Purdue last year, Max Clare. He had a few catches for Ohio State. So there's another Purdue player we're talking about. We didn't expect to do this. Any other Purdue players that we thought we'd be talking about a year ago that we want to bring up?
Well, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I will say that, you know, the odds of a Purdue player from last year, yeah, Purdue player from last year making to the Big Ten championship is pretty high.
Coach Drew hates me right now. I want you to know that, America. Coach Drew hates me like I'm from Kansas. I don't know why Coach Drew hates people from Kansas, but he does. I can't explain it. It's kind of irrational, but Coach Drew's a really nice guy. So if you're from Kansas and you're listening to this, I apologize on his behalf. Don't judge him based on this meeting alone. He could grow on you.
Yeah, maybe I'm just frustrated because the podcast equipment's so expensive, or it needs to be more expensive. I don't know. There's some comments out there.
I bought my headset at the dollar store. Who's the pussy Ohio State fan that said that?
I don't remember, but there was also one that I'm assuming came after me because of the Oregon Penn State talk too. There was another one. This guy, he at least didn't yell it at me like the Ohio State fan did.
I went to high school with this kid. God, I'm not going to say his name because that would be super rude. And we don't want to be rude on the Midwest Blitz because we're from the Midwest and we have manners. But there was this kid, he's a really good golfer. He's a golf pro at a place now. And he's always kind of athletic. Like he played like youth sports, but his parents had money and they sent him to like golf pro school. And that's a pretty good position to be in. And he was a hell of a golfer. But that comment about shouldn't podcast equipment be more expensive was like the most pussy, pampered, my parents sent me to golf school comment I've ever fucking heard. I mean, you can make fun of us about a lot of things. We missed some bets. Oh, we didn't do our bets yet. I missed some bets. I missed some picks, but your headphones, your podcast equipment could be more expensive. Oh my God. Crawl back in bed with your mom, you fucking pussy. You gotta be kidding me. Your podcast equipment. And the reason that my friend, I'm using the term friend loosely. The reason he would say something like that is that he actually knows nothing about football or baseball or basketball or boxing or any like real sport. It's just because he's a Nancy and he watches and he can't understand the content. And so he just goes, equipment looks cheap. My parents would buy me better equipment. It's just such a Sally ass thing to say. Oh, man. What do you think, Coach Drew?
Yeah, and I also think sometimes they're also saying that too because our takes are so bad that we need to be able not to afford it as well. So I almost want to be like, I'm sorry that I am rich enough to afford podcasting equipment. If you know everything, why don't you step in front of the mic and say something?
Well, I mean, I'll just speak for myself here. Drew knows that I could buy any podcast equipment possible. I'm not saying that Coach Drew couldn't. I'm just saying I could buy whatever I want. When we started doing this, I literally just found these in the closet and I was like, oh, headphones. I can hear him. That's it. I have a microphone. This thing, I just think it looks cool. I guess it doesn't look cool. I have a microphone, a real microphone. I don't give a fuck what my headphones look like, but now I'm like, maybe I should buy new headphones. Maybe I should treat myself. My God.
You should just buy like Beats and like 2 Go chains.
I would buy Beats if they didn't suck.
And then you gotta have like, then you gotta have 2 iPhones right next to your head to show how rich you are. Not 1 iPhone, but 2 iPhones right in front of your Beats with your 2 Go chains.
My parents would buy me fancy podcast equipment. I thought that was so funny. You could not be more of a pussy than that guy. I guarantee you that guy is just such a soft ass bitch. It's so embarrassing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what we're going to end on right there. Well, it's been another Midwest Goodbye with Coach Nick and Big Nick. Yeah, yup.
Yeah. Coach Drew, thank you for being here. Hey, thank
for
you,
being here.
everybody who listens. Thank you. We have so much fun doing this, and it's really just to talk football with a few thousand of our favorite people in the world.
Yep. And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, repost, do all the good stuff on all the medias. We now have the YouTube at the bottom. I'm going to switch it on the other top so people know that we actually are on YouTube besides TikTok, so they can see how rich we are. We have the YouTubes.
Hey, if
Later,
we make dumb comments and you have suggestions or picks or suggestions for what you want us to talk about, we're all ears. So this is a real Midwest Goodbye. But yeah, we want to hear what you guys have to say, unless you want your mommy and daddy bought you fancy podcast equipment. Thank you, all of you real football fans. We love doing this so much. That's a Midwest Goodbye, right, Drew?
Yep, that's a Midwest Goodbye. Yeah,
it ain't the first, and it ain't going to be the last. Yeah, yup. We'll see you guys next time.
Yep.